Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to Top of Mind with Anne and Rachel. Rachel seems to have been way late on her way back to her computer, but my name is Anne Krupke. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a Senior FastTrack Solution Architect at Microsoft. I'm a white woman with brown hair that's up today. I'm wearing a yellow sweatshirt, some over-the-ear headphones, and I'm coming at you from my home office. Joining us, our special guest today is Ilya Fainberg. And Ilya, I would love it if you would introduce yourself.
Hi, yes, Ilya Fainberg. So I'm also basically a senior FastTrack Solution Architect at Microsoft with the same team as Anne. My pronoun is he, him, a white man with very nice wooden headphones and a very stylish blazer, red blazer. So yeah, hello.
Yeah, I feel like you've got quite a prime setup going on there. And I feel like it has to do with the fact that you do a lot of this kind of stuff. So why don't you tell me like a little bit more about you for our audience and like what's your background and what kind of stuff do you enjoy doing?
Yeah, wow, background. So kind of I started my career as very much like a developer guy, coding and stuff. Always been kind of a nerdy, geeky kid. Who's been doing coding since he was like 13 or so.
Wow.
Actually, my first commercial job, for which I actually was paid for, was a custom CRM system which I built in like Visual Basic and like Microsoft Access. When I was 15 years
Wow.
old, for a hospital actually. I'm really surprised that the level of responsibility I was given at that age is to be. I mean,
That's
looking
a
back,
lot of,
is a bit.
especially for like healthcare.
Yeah,
To put
exactly.
it
It's a bit
all on a
irresponsible.
15-year-old.
Yeah. From there on, I did a lot of different kind of. By the way, hi Rachel.
Yeah,
Hi.
welcome back.
Welcome back.
Sorry. Had to step away for a bio break.
No problem. So yeah, I mean, I did a lot of coding before going into like actual consulting and architecture, and a lot of different areas. So it's like was a high level development and embedded development. So I actually, worked in an organization which built, like custom hardware for nuclear installations. So like at the age of 19, I was entrusted with building custom controllers for a nuclear power station. And
The
certified
hospital's weren't enough.
with the
We had to
Atomic
take it to the
Commission.
next level.
I honestly, I was legit terrified by the whole approval process of the device I made when I was 19 for the like nuclear power plant, because it felt like there should be more control over code built by like a 19-year-old kid, which goes into a nuclear power plant, and specifically that system was to detect alarms and issues with the power plant to then alert the kind of emergency services. So if it doesn't work, that's really bad. Okay, well,
So
that
did
was
you
nice.
put your own controls in? I hope you did.
So yeah, I was so terrified that I suggested to the management of the company that we should kind of improve the quality control processes and implement additional processes, and actually wrote like this booklet for the entire organization, about coding guidelines and quality standards and all that stuff, which they didn't have, amazingly at the time. And yeah, that was kind of
That's a FastTrack Solution Architect was born.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That was kind of going already in that direction, essentially. Yeah. After that, I did a lot of other stuff, but I went into. I mainly, even in coding, dealt with like enterprise systems, with industrial systems, things like that. So very close to like enterprise applications, and then went into consulting. So I worked at Columbus for a while. It's like a large. They're based in Denmark, but they have offices all across the world. It's a large Microsoft partner, global Microsoft partner. They actually used to own what now became Dynamics 365 F&O. So they used to own AX at some point, Dynamics AX, as I know, for a little while until Microsoft acquired it from them. And I started there as like a CRM, Dynamics CRM developer, then consultant, then architect, and basically the rest is history essentially.
Yeah, and since
several
then,
years afterwards, yeah.
You're one of the big participators in the CE Power Platform community, right? I want to say I know you do a lot of conferences, and I'm sure you can list them all off. And you've done a lot recently in terms of like connecting the Power Platform community, and I'd love to hear kind of what work you've been doing, if you can share it with everybody.
Yeah. So I kind of started doing that not that long ago. I mean, like 2 years ago, I had barely if any presence in social media at all, and kind of my thinking was always that if I have a good enough idea, that idea will find a way to be essentially implemented, whether with the customer or some kind of other project, personal project, whatever it is. But it was so often that many ideas which I thought were good stayed on a table and basically left unknown to anyone, and therefore pretty much non-existent. So I found social media to be a sort of an outlet to different kind of ideas that I have. I just want them to be out there. So I started to build different kind of small solutions, stuff like for Power Platform, Power Apps, Power Automate, things like that, like custom controls, whatever, apps. And I started publishing that about 2 years ago, and then started to get into showing all those stuff at different events and conferences, and that all kind of snowballed from there to today, where I'm doing at least 12 conferences a year.
Wow.
This year's like 16 or so, like worldwide for the most part. I'm talking about. I mean, my latest passion is AI, so I'm talking a lot about AI. I'm talking a lot about process mining and like Power Platform applications in general. I have sessions around the UX, graphics, the whole sides of branding and graphic design and all that stuff. So yeah, I went deeply into that whole social media thing. I try to kind of get my ideas out there as much as possible, so that even if I don't get the chance to use them, other people can. And it seems that it got some traction, and people do seem to implement some of those ideas, and that's really an amazing feeling, when I get like a message on Twitter or on LinkedIn saying that, the idea you wrote about in this article or this post, I actually implemented that with the customer, and that works great for us. So thank you.
That's
and
awesome.
Yeah, for me, that's basically everything I ever wanted, to be honest.
Yeah, I feel like that's a problem our community struggles with a lot, whether it's the F&O community, the CE community, or Power. Is there's so many ways our products could be better, right? That it's just a fact. Any product, regardless of Microsoft, could be a better product. And how do you take these ideas and get them into the product, or in your case, how do you do it yourself? I think it's a really tough problem that everybody has. And I think you've done some other things like the Discord, right? I think you actually were telling me a while ago, months ago even, that you had kind of as a group come up with some feedback and collectively gotten it to a point where it was on the roadmap.
Yeah, so it was in the WhatsApp community. Like few months ago, WhatsApp added a feature to their app to create communities, and I noticed that basically by mistake. It was like on a Saturday. I was on the beach. I was just scrolling through WhatsApp, and I noticed this feature was added. So I thought, why not create like a new global community for Power Platform enthusiasts in WhatsApp? And I kind of did that. It took off quite quickly. So like in the first few weeks, we had like almost 2,000 members.
Wow.
And now, yeah, it's a fairly vibrant community. You can see there are conversations happening every few seconds, like 24/7, on different topics, on dynamics, on the Power Automate, on like general Power Platform stuff. And one of the things that we're doing is discussing different features, discussing different feedback that we get about the product from customers, from whatever it is. And yeah, there was this time where we actually have several Microsoft PMs are also members of that community, and they kind of engage, or sometimes they engage actively, sometimes they just listen in for feedback from that community. But yeah, there was this one time when we kind of came together and decided that this one feature that we want to have for Power Automate is something that we really want. And we created an idea in the ideas website of Microsoft, and basically the community just went and voted for that idea so quickly that basically, according to the rules of that PM team, after 2 days of voting, they were obligated to basically consider that feature into the roadmap, because there was like more than several hundred votes there, and in that case, they kind of have to consider it on the roadmap. And
That's
that's an
impressive.
amazing power of the community.
Yeah. I think we need to harness that over on the F&O side, because we do have the idea site. I think there's a bit of fatigue sometimes from our ideators. So like maybe I think it's probably somewhat a post-COVID symptom, or a COVID and post-COVID symptom of feeling a little bit disconnected product team and community. And I think it's really impressive what you've done, and I'd love to see more of it across all of our products.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely less active now, I would say, in building and publishing stuff myself, like on Twitter, on LinkedIn, whatever it is. I'm kind of more on now trying to be on the side of enabling the community, right? I have the WhatsApp community for platform, which enables a lot of people to just have a platform and get more information, and there's a good feedback about
that's kind of
how it helps people.
The FastTrack magazine came about, right? Because
you
led that whole initiative as well. Do you maybe want to tell people about the FastTrack magazine if they're not familiar?
Yeah, so that's also kind of another way I try to essentially create a new platform for the community to engage, maybe a bit in a different way. So what I wanted to do is, within Microsoft, especially within FastTrack, we work a lot with customers. We work a lot with program managers on different product features and different products. And we have a lot of kind of artifacts like documents, white papers, presentations that we create. And for the most part, after like half a year, it's something that somewhere in someone's mailbox, and you need to find, if you need to find this information, it's like this kind of legend that you need to uncover for yourself, if you want to find it. And I thought, why not create some kind of platform for us where we can not just publish that for our sake, but also for the sake of the community at large, for the sake of the public, where it will remain on record in one place, forever, quote unquote, and could benefit not just us, but everyone, and also be accessible for everyone at any time, including by us, right? So information is not lost, and all the valuable effort that we do within FastTrack and within R&D in general is actually benefiting someone, and is not being lost somewhere in someone's mailbox. And today we had so we're doing like an issue every month, and we started. When was it? Like in November, I think last year or so. So at this point, we have around 10,000 subscribers to the magazine, most of whom get the actual magazine to their email box every month. And yeah, we get a steady growth. We get a lot of great feedback there, even to the point where I got some messages from people at FastTrack saying, my customer called me and congratulated me on FastTrack magazine, even though I had nothing to do with it. But it's something that gives visibility to everyone at FastTrack, and also a platform to kind of publish their thoughts and kind of share their thoughts with the wider community, if they have a platform on social media or not, right? It's kind of the platform that all of us essentially can use.
Yep. So I put a link to the FastTrack Dynamics, our company page on LinkedIn, and you can subscribe to the FastTrack magazine there. Is there an AKA link for the subscribe as well?
I think there was one. I think there is like an aka.ms/FT magazine. Well, I don't remember, honestly. I haven't actually used it. I created it, but I don't think I ever used it.
See, when you do a web show like this, you get really used to throwing AKA links out there because they're easier for people to digest. It is not FT magazine. I got redirected to Bing. So we'll figure it out later and post it in the comments on the LinkedIn and YouTube channels. But I think it's great work. It's a really another great example, Ilya, of how you are enabling not just like the user community, but also the Microsoft community to showcase the work that they're already doing and get it out to more people. I think it's really awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think the problem that a lot of ideas are staying on the table and not being shared with anyone is not just a problem that I have. It's a problem that I think every one of us have who work, in IT, let's say in creative IT jobs, where you have to create solutions or come up with different solutions whether you're a solution architect or developer or consultant, whatever it is, there certainly are ideas that you have, which can be great ideas, but didn't get traction in your current project, in your current customer, and having those kind of platforms which shed light on those ideas and help others, that's amazing. That's basically the great thing about the Max community in general, I think, compared to, let's say, I honestly don't even know if you can find as much like community work or information or articles or whatever it is for like Salesforce or ECP. It just, the community that we have at Microsoft is just amazing, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, not to get all like excited about our company mission and everything, but or just like working at Microsoft, but I think part of it is like the stack, right? We have so many pieces. We're so unique as a technology company in the sense that we have Microsoft Office. We have Power Platform, which is basically Office 2.0, but I mean, Office is amazing, so is Power Platform. But it's a similar kind of applies to anybody, right?
Yeah.
Sort of a tool. Like anybody can use Excel. Anybody could use Power Automate to make their job or personal like life better. And then you've got the the Dynamics suite. Now we've got Copilot, AI in the picture. Like, I mean, Azure, of course, if you want to get more technical, but like there's this whole thing and I don't know. I wonder sometimes if that's what makes the Microsoft community kind of so much what it is because it's just all encompassing what Microsoft does. Like the different communities are so strong because they're so applicable widely.
Yeah, I think there's a few things here. The Microsoft community is not just very strong, not just because of the products or because of Dynamics, because it was built like that, kind of from the start, essentially. Like even in the like in the 90s when I started out as a developer, also with like Microsoft technologies. I mean, I actually was a big Unix/Linux guy initially, and the Microsoft community always had a lot of information, always had a lot of open code that you can use, even though the actual products are not open source. And a lot of people willing to help, like a lot of people willing to get down to your level, even if you're like a green idiot and don't know anything. A lot of people willing to engage with you and explain how things work and and help you. With, for example, with Linux, at least back in the day, I don't know how is it now. It was always very snobbish. Like, I mean, there's a lot of open source, a lot of code. It's all open. It's all available. Blah blah blah. But people make you feel like an idiot all the time, even if you're not an idiot.
Good.
Yeah, so that's kind of, I think, the difference between kind of what we have with Microsoft in general, not just with Dynamics and business applications, compared to not just the size of the community, but also the willingness of people to engage at whatever level you are. Like, people can literally ask you, hey, how do I subscribe to a trial of Power Platform? You can Google that, come on, right? Yeah. But still, there is people who will find the time to answer even those kind of questions, which is great.
Well, I think
amazing.
It's like, one of our kind of core pillars, here at Microsoft is like the growth mindset. And I feel like our community shares in that growth mindset with us. And the only way we grow and learn is by asking questions. And I think it's fantastic that our community shares that growth mindset with us. And I think the more we do it, the faster our technology advances. Because if we get past the basics, right, then we can start asking the harder questions, and that's how technology advances, right? I mean,
yeah.
I think it's cool, like, to see how the product has evolved over time. And I think, and you were talking about kind of how the community is like all blurred together with the products, but I think we're going to continue to see like the products themselves, the lines are blurring more and more. It's like we all have, and it's kind of like back to the whole business process thing that we've been harping on for so long. And I live it every day, but we're now like trying to like blur those lines. So it really is just about like, what is the problem you're trying to solve? And let's help each other solve that problem. And there's a lot of technology choices out there. And if we can piece them together in a meaningful way that is cost effective, like that's a win for everyone.
Go ahead.
Yeah, sometimes I think people don't realize how much actually the community and the opinions of pretty much everyone affect what we do at Microsoft. It is kind of something I open with almost every presentation I do at the conference when I talk about about my role, about myself, what I do. I always try to drive home the point that kind of whatever we do at Microsoft, like 90% of the ideas of the features of the whatever we build comes from feedback that we get from customers and partners and people in the community, right? If I'm coming to a PM and I'm saying, I want this feature embedded in, I don't know, Dynamics, sales or customer service, whatever it is, the first question I'm getting is, who wants that? Like, I need to justify my will to implement some kind of feature, which might be legitimately awesome, by saying specifically which customers, which partners, which whoever wants to have that. And if this is, if I cannot answer that question, then there's a very low chance it will go into the product ever. Like 90% of the things we have.
Yeah, it's who wants it and what's the impact on the business. And like, to understand the impact on the business, it has to map to like an actual business process that an organization does, right? It can't just be cool whiz bang. And it might be really cool whiz bang, whatever, but if it doesn't actually map to a business process and have an impact on that business process, then like, what's the ROI?
Yeah. Why are we doing it if it's not helping?
Because you could build it, but then nobody would buy it because like there's no impact, right? It's cool, but I mean, we're not in the business in this division of making Xbox games that are just cool.
Well, Xbox games, to be fair, make quite a lot of money,
Yeah.
But like the requirement isn't that it just has to be cool, right?
I guess.
Yeah. Well, I think I think you can get kind of like the corner point of what's cool and what's impactful, and I think Copilot is actually a good example of that. Like a really good example of that. That is huge. New. Well, it's not new. I mean, AI is not really new, but where we're able to apply it is, and I think when you look at, like, I've played around with Power Platform, Copilot, like creating new flows and stuff, and it is, for me, it's both cool and impactful. Just the time reduction in manual steps or like learning things I didn't know about Power Platform connectors or actions or whatever you call them, controls.
Yeah. I had some horribly formatted text that I actually generated from a different Power Automate, which is funny, but I needed to parse it like in a different Power Automate. And because I didn't have like actual fields to put all my data in, it was just like this big giant text field that I and it was formatted, but I needed to get to like the third line into a value. And using that Copilot that you're talking about in Forms, like this thing was just amazing. I gave it like 2 or 3 samples, and it was able to just like format and make a formula for me that could parse it. And I probably would have sat there and like spent hours trying to parse it and probably not have been as successful, but like it understood the format, like the pattern in the data that I gave it, and was able to give me the formula to parse it out. And it was like mind blowing. I was like, this is cool. And it's impactful. It saved me hours. I loved it.
Yeah, there's definitely this kind of aura of, let's say, coolness around AI in general right now, I would say. And certainly, while it's not as hot as it was like at the beginning of the year, maybe, but it seems like people are a bit tired of the word AI at this point, it's still undeniably very, very cool in terms of not, just the word itself, and not just the imaginary future capabilities, like Skynet and Terminators, but also with the current things that we can do. Like I literally had this demo, which I showed at one of the conferences for UX, where I just drew like a wireframe image of an app, which I want to be on Power Apps on a napkin. I took a photo with my phone and I converted that using AI into an actual app in Power Apps.
And like for people, it was
like, it's like mind blowing,
Yeah.
Right.
And I was saying
10 years from now, people are going to be like it's not going to matter. They're going to we're going to be like old people who are like talking about how like, remember when we used to have to write our own DAX formulas? Remember when cell phones didn't exist, right? Like that's what it's going to be like. And
but I feel like we're also going to have a Back to the Future effect where we get to 2050 and all these things like we dreamed of. Everybody's like, what is that? Like people in the 2020s dreaming of the 2050s. Like what even was that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one thing for sure, there will still be no flying cars. I mean, this thing is being promised for the last 50 years. It's still not here. Like no nuclear fusion and no flying cars, definitely.
Well, I
Maybe
feel
like
like
self-lacing
Like
knives.
100
unless you
years
make
since
flying
promise.
cars super green, I feel like it's really hard to justify the carbon footprint of that. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, actually, they now have like electric flying cars. Like it's basically a huge quadcopter.
I mean, maybe Tesla should invest into this because, like, maybe they'd hit less people with their auto-driven vehicles on the ground. I don't like if they're up in the air.
Anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Now, when I was small, I was actually dreaming about flying cars. Now, when I'm kind of a bit older and smarter, I was like, okay, what if those flying cars are starting to fall down from the sky on people? You know, that's even worse.
Yeah.
So maybe we don't actually want that. You know.
Yeah.
If any of my friends were on this call, they would definitely be saying, no, Rachel, keep your feet planted firmly on the ground.
Yeah, Rachel, you're not allowed in any, like maybe just no moving vehicles for you, period. I think you're grounded, literally.
Literally grounded.
Literally grounded.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, actually, maybe this is also something that AI can solve in the future. Like, if we actually don't have any human-driven cars and it's all driven by AIs and stuff like that, and there's literally all the cars and everything is talking to each other, so there's really no need to have accidents or collisions or whatever it is. So yeah, maybe that will be.
I want to share.
You know what they say about making things foolproof, though? Like when you make something foolproof, they'll make a greater fool or like a better fool. Like.
Yeah. But this conversation has morphed into this fantastic idea that I've just and I'm going to share it, and hopefully somebody goes and does it. So this concept of the service animal, right? One time when I was hospitalized, I met a service animal that was so talented. I don't even know how they made this service animal learn all these things, but it understood when a human was starting to lose its balance and would it was a large service animal and it would nudge the human back over, right? It could sense these things. It could pick up a quarter off of the ground. It could do laundry, all these amazing things that this service animal could do. But service animals, they're fantastic. In many ways, I wish I had my own service animal. But if we could use AI to replace the service animal.
You mean robot servants that can eventually take over the world?
No, not robots. One of the rules of responsible AI, and side note, we're going to have Donna Sarker. Is it in 2 weeks or is it next week? I think it's in 2 weeks.
Next week is Heather Cook to talk about community, but we are planning on having Donna Sarker join us to talk about responsible AI, because I think that is one of the things that Rachel and I, we talk about AI almost every week because it's so prevalent, but I think there's a deeper conversation to be had about how do you do it right and responsibly. And so we're bringing in Sela's own Donna Sarker to help us talk about that.
Yeah. But one of the rules of AI is that we never give AI human characteristics. It's one of the rules of responsible AI.
Interesting.
So you don't develop eyes for AI. That's not well, that's how we get to Terminator. But that's one of the rules. So we don't want to build AIs that look like dogs, right? I mean, even though that's not a human, I think that's still kind of breaking the rule of human characteristics, because you'd have to build it eyes, you'd have to build it legs, all these things. But if we can somehow connect the dots and make the AI service animal, that would be amazing. Right, co-pilot, service animal. I don't know.
I feel like this is a deep dive topic for another time.
And let's take this idea to the next level.
Well, thank you so much, Ilya, for joining us in this really strange, meandering conversation that we've had. It's been a pleasure having you on. I'm sure we'll have to have you back. But thanks again for joining us. And thanks
Thank you very
everybody
much.
for tuning in.
Yeah. Bye, everyone.
Yeah.
We'll see you next
Thank
time
you.
on Top of
Bye.
Mind with Ann and Rachel.